Well, welcome back, everybody, and huge thanks to Ian, Liz, and Tom. I've been fascinated by those sections. Absolutely brilliant. I've got one more final closing little insight for you. But before then, just to remind you that Ian, Liz, Tom, and many other people from our faculty will be joining me when we get back to real life in September at the Festival of Great Creative Thinking at Crossbaskets Castle in Glasgow. And immediately we relaunch in real life in September, we will be starting to put our masterclasses and our retreats and our creative sprints back to real life, many of them at the place in my background, the Loch Ness Centre for Creative Thinking. I hope we'll get to see some of you there. So I spoke earlier on about what started on this journey to putting together Revolutionize, the company that shows, teaches, and does great creative thinking. Well, at the end of the journey, great creative thinking exists to solve two problems in its own right. These are the two problems, the only two problems that cause all the procrastination, internal worry, the feel spin and anxiety that involves lack of focus, which stops stuff happening. Ideas, organizations from growing, the world from getting a better place. And those two problems are really simple, but not easy to solve. The first problem is complexity, and the second problem is fantasy. And both of these are increasing in the world that we live in now. 100 years ago, business was simple compared to what it is now. You just had to be really good at doing something and deliver it efficiently, and your business would grow. Now there's so much more to it. Now you have to have a purpose. You have to make the world a better place. You have responsibility for the welfare of your staff and the growth of your staff. You operate in a world that is changing very quickly. And you even have to do things like marketing and strategic planning and adapting to changing environments all around you. And all of that is very complex. For charities 50 years ago, they generally did things like feed people, build homes, and provide medicine. Now they've evolved to deal with the root causes of social problems or humanitarian problems, globalization, and they often now act as advocates for the groups they present. And that is extremely complex. And for us as individuals, just over 25 years ago, and I can remember it, you had a very small number of TV channels and limited other media, and your world and your influence were pretty focused. You sort of had a life journey that came to you very, very young. Now it's different. Your options are many times more. There are so many more stimulants, so many more obligations, and so many more anxiety. And the combinations of these are pretty much beyond measure. They are the life in front of us, or the options in front of us, is perhaps the very definition of complexity. So the world for all of us is getting more complex, whether we're a business, a charity, or even just an individual trying to make a go of things. But fantasy, that's getting worse too, perhaps due to the number of options available to us, but perhaps more so due to the increasing complexity itself and to the huge, rich variety of media we have available to us. So business, it turns out that having a purpose and looking after your staff and being the good guy is somewhat harder than we thought. Greenwashing and CSR have proven to be not enough. They have proven to be fantasies. They don't make the world a better place. We're just pretending to. And in business, getting rich is hard too, despite the fact we're bombarded on social media about stories about people who had one idea, then the next morning they were multimillionaires. That doesn't happen in real life. There is a lot of work, as I remember Ian saying earlier on, there's a lot of hard work between having an idea and success. Dreamers without focus will only ever dream. Perhaps if we meet in real life, I'll tell you about someone I call the unicorn guy. Is someone I meet for family social reasons. And he goes on and on and on about how he's really working hard to discover the next unicorn, because that's how he'll get rich really, really quickly. He's been doing this for the best part of 20 years and got nowhere. Idea plus hard work. Charities, charities have a really hard task. they need to mix idealism and pragmatism because they need the money, the people, and the structures to achieve their ideals. And the two, idealistic behavior and pragmatic behavior, very rarely align. Yeah. You don't make stuff happen by sitting in only the idealistic space and having an excuse for lack of progress being, well, in a perfect world, it would work like this, is perhaps my most strident definition of fantasy. I agree there's many things that would be different in a perfect world, but the world is not yet perfect. It's a fantasy to believe that it is. And people ourselves, we are just bombarded with quick success formula. You know, lose 20 kilos and get a six-pack in just 3 weeks of minimal work ain't gonna happen. You can do anything you want with your life. Not true. Never mind how much I run, I will never be an Olympic sprinter. The simple truth is that despite our technology, despite progress, hard work and dedication and resilience are still required. The one-off easy life story put forward to us by so many people, particularly online, is just an exaggeration, luck, or indeed a lie, yet many people buy it in their millions. So these are all examples about how fantasy gets in the way of having the right idea, solving the right problem, and putting in the effort needed to bridge the idea into success. So the solution, and these are the two things, and the only two things that a great creative thinking process needs to deliver. It needs to turn complexity into simplicity, and it needs to turn fantasy into truth. That is how we've ended up with Revolutionize. Simple truths that spark great change. The simple truth is the start of everything. The spark gets it going, and it's then up to you to put the hard work in. Simplicity and truth. Very, very simple, but not at all easy. So how do you do it? Simplicity and truth, and finding simplicity and truth, can be deeply uncomfortable. But what, ladies and gentlemen, do comfortable people do? They don't do anything. They just sit around being comfortable. People talk about getting out of their comfort zone for a reason, but getting out of your comfort zone is by definition uncomfortable. So therefore, the group or the team that's working on a creative project needs to have the very best environment, process, people, and support around them, but they also have the courage and resilience to work in that emotional space and keep going until we have that absolute simplicity and truth, better known as a light bulb moment, and then not to compromise on it when it's found. There are 10 sort of macro stages involved in great creative thinking. The first one, clear your head and focus. If you have a problem to solve, make sure that the project to solve that problem is about solving that problem and nothing else. Second, stuff your brain with knowledge of the area in which you're trying to solve a problem. Have all the information be completely up to date and have those neurons, the ones that your brain accesses first when trying to have ideas. Understand what enthuses people in your group, in yourself, in your wider organization. Take your time to be extremely precise about the problem you are trying to solve, and then create the mood within which great creative thinking can happen, the 4 Ps that I referenced earlier on. Stage 6 is to have as many ideas as you possibly can without analyzing them. And you only know you've had enough when you cannot have any more. You then take a break, and then, and only then, at step 7, do you start to analyze or measure or select or shortlist your ideas. And you don't do that based on opinion. You do it based on the precise definition of the problem that we had earlier in step 4. There's then the kind of Sherlock Holmes moment. When we've eliminated everything that won't work, whatever is left must be the best that we can do. and then deciding on that idea is the one that we are going to go with, perhaps the crux of the entire process, because that's the moment of commitment. Not waiting until it's perfect, waiting until it's the best we can do, and then going under step 9, to test it, and then step 10, do it over and over again until the idea is as close to perfect as you can possibly get it. Don't miss out a step, otherwise you have pretty poor quality creative thinking. Okay, 3 examples. One is a charity. It's the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, based in Cape Town, South Africa. They had an idea, which is to use the concept of nationhood, of country building, to unite a country that has for many decades been very fragmented. This is not easy. So their brilliant idea was, instead of trying to tell people it was easy, was to tell people it's going to be very, very hard and take a very, very long time. So rather than doing a quick and easy charity stroke political campaign, they put together something called the 100-year dream towards a united South Africa, to give them a precise focus, but also to give people that emotional resilience required to deliver on it. Businesses, it's very, very easy to get extremely complex, but the whole creative industry is about extracting simplicity in terms of the biggest ideas, very, very simple truths. And I can't help but note that many of the most effective ones are not actually about selling a product, but they're about driving the behavior of people. Think different at Apple, just do it at Nike, connecting people at Facebook. These are not about describing the product. They are about driving the behaviors of people through the purchase of their product. Quite remarkable. And that's on a macro global scale. They're working in the emotional space. And one of the smallest little business insights, light bulb moments I ever had, was building a hotel business. And I was obsessed, and I knew from my data that having a good food offering would be the one that really, really drives this business. And so I obsessed about making dinner better. It got to be fine dining, then fine dining, then even finer dining. But our income didn't go up, and actually our reviews didn't really improve significantly. Until I did something very clever, which was get a bit creative with a small group of experts, people who knew about food and hotels in a room. And it was less than half an hour in that the light bulb moment became clear that we were putting all our effort into dinner and we completely ignored breakfast. But breakfast is the last thing a guest at your hotel sees. So the word of mouth growth of your food offering is actually going to come more from the breakfast than it is from the dinner. The dinner may get the glamour and the fancy photographs, but breakfast is what makes people feel good. It's in the emotional space. So we do a fantastic breakfast. It's visually stunning. It tastes even better. But we do something very clever. We put a bottle of whiskey beside the porridge, so that if people want to have a shot of whiskey in their porridge before they leave the hotel, they can. Hardly anybody does. Every now and then somebody does, but it's very, very rare. But everybody talks about it. It's become a little bit of a legend. And my final light bulb moment was my personal one, which has led to acting so fast right now. Was after years of sort of existential angst, what am I here for? What's the point of this? And sort of fairly lumpy mental health, I had a great light bulb moment, which was this. Why am I worrying about the meaning of life and what my priorities are? It's like, I didn't exist, then for a short period of time I will exist, and then I won't exist again. And in the middle is my life. And all that is a number of days. The number of days I don't know, but whatever the number of days I'm going to get, that's all I'm going to get. So don't waste a day. Do not waste a day with a hangover. Don't waste a day with regret. Don't waste a day with procrastination. Get on with it. Solve problems, have ideas, one day at a time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the journey I hope that you will come along with us on. Thanks again to all the speakers. And James, I believe we're now back to you. Thank you.